All right, we'll call this meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Evening, everyone. Before we start tonight's meeting, I think it would be appropriate for us all to take a moment of silence to remember the tragic loss of life this week of 11-year-old Matthew Whitehead. So you want to elaborate a little bit on that?
Sure. As everyone knows, what happened in our community this week, and the tragic loss of an 11-year-old boy, Matthew Whitehead, in our community. It's been a heartbreaking week for our community. Even people that did not know the family just been really affected, have been really affected by what happened. So, we ask you to remember Matthew in your thoughts and your prayers. Take time to hug your loved ones. Take time to hug your children. A lot of us don't do that as frequently as we should. So life is precious. We lost a very young member of our community this week, and please remember him in your thoughts.
Please let's have a moment of silence. Thank you very much. First is opportunity to questions or comments from the public. Anyone? All right. Next is.
Wait.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you coming.
William Slaymaker, 104 Crabapple Lane in Hatboro. I know we have a new council member, Mr. Chaudry, so I wanted to stop by and just give all of you an update on the progress that we've made with the Miracle Field project. So the first couple minutes, I'm going to brag a little bit. 2 years ago, I met with Mr. Walker, and there were two projects trying to get done at the same time. The Horsham soccer program was looking to build 2 new turf fields, and we had just started the Miracle Field project to build the finest special needs baseball field in the country right across the street. So we recognized that it was going to be rather difficult. And tonight, it's very cool that Horsham Soccer broke ground. And we've come a very long way on the Miracle Field project. 2 years ago, we did not have even a bank account. And we have successfully fundraised over $1.8 million now. We have a bank account now. We recently have fundraised about $40,000 with the help of local businesses, including Angelo's Restaurant and McGurk's, and thank you to the township and all the volunteers. We had a 5K at the beginning of April where we raised another $10,000. So just in the last 6 weeks or so, we raised $40,000 on our own. Next week, we have a meeting with an architect. We've been very lucky. Many people have reached out to us offering services, and we have an architect who we're walking the grounds with next week. I would love for everybody here to use Google. Go check out the Miracle Field of Arizona. That is the field that we are trying to mimic. It appears to me that they have the best field in the country, but only temporarily. So take a look at that. They've actually shared their engineering diagrams with us and their engineering plans. So I feel like we've got a good head start there. And we are looking to break ground in August or September. So again, I appreciate the work the township has put in. Bill Walker has been an incredible asset to us and been very helpful. And I know that you have committed to paving the parking lot and putting lights in the parking lot, because when we build the finest field in the country, there's going to be a lot of kids from the area coming who utilize wheelchairs and walkers, and we will need the improvements done in the parking lot. So again, thank you for, on behalf of the entire Miracle Field board, thank you for your assistance. Thank you.
Oh, we can do better than that. All right, thank you for that update. Sean, I think you went on a,
As a member of the Miracle Field Project, just wanted to say thanks to all the work that you do, Bill, on making this happen. We just had our 5K April 1st, I believe. Yeah, and even though it was rainy, we had a decent turnout and everybody was smiling, which is kind of representative of the way this community comes together to get projects done. There's a couple of people that I would just like to personally say thank you to. Bill and Dennis, the way you guys coordinate with outside entities and kind of delegate the task within the township staff is pretty incredible and is hugely helpful. So thank you. And then a couple other people, Horsham Police, you guys are always there to help out in whatever way with the Miracle Field Project, and it's quite incredible. And another shout out to the Public Works, the way that they keep that field, all the fields, all the township property in great shape all year round. I don't think that's really in season for the park when we did that 5K, and the trails were immaculate as if it was midsummer and they had been keeping it up. So it's great to be on this staff. I appreciate my colleagues, the way that they support the Horsham Miracle Field, and it's just a great community. So thanks for everybody that helped out with that project, and we're getting closer. We're getting there. So thank you.
thanks, Sean. Next is to announce the Hurricane Ida relief funds. Bill?
Yes, just to let everyone know, round 2 opened on April 1st and will close on April 30th. We are round 2, I should say. Round 1 was held in March, as council is aware of. We had Dennis was supposed to get this report, but Dennis is home with the stomach virus. So the round 1, we were, the last that I got an update, we were around approaching $250,000 of funding for round 1. So of course there is money for round 2. We strongly encourage everyone that's been affected by the tornado or the flood from Hurricane Ida to apply. I've told you before, I believe 99% of those who apply will get money. A lot of people call saying, or I bumped into sometimes that I know their neighborhood was affected. I don't want to bother. Nah, there's nothing, there's nothing I have that's going to count to give me money. And I said, just put an application in. And Dennis then reaches out to them and walks through them their expenses and identifies expenses. So Dennis is helping residents identify expenses that they incurred that they're not thinking about to make application. So we have a total of $525,000 that was given to the township through Senator Collette's office and Senator Hughes. And I believe most likely we'll have a round 3. Round 3 will be open for businesses at that point. It hasn't opened yet. Round 1 and round 2 are for residential properties only. So I believe there will be some money left for round 3 where businesses and commercial entities can apply for. But the important thing is April 30th is the deadline for round 2.
Good. All right, next is approval of minutes. Do we have a motion?
I move to approve the minutes as presented.
Moved in second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Bill, treasurer's report.
The balance in the general fund as of March 31st, 2023 is $4,176,481.70. For the most part, both the receipts and the expenditures in the general fund reflect normal activity for March. Revenues in the general fund are at 45.29% of budget, and expenditures are at 24.32% of budget. For a more detailed presentation of our current financial position, I would refer you to your monthly booklet.
Approval for checks.
I move to approve the list of checks in all funds in the amount of $560,594.61, and further move to authorize payment as same. Also, I move to ratify the U.S. Bank credit card transactions for the month of March 2023 in the amount of $17,536.49.
Second.
Moved in second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, the next two items on the agenda, it's an introduction of an ordinance and the adoption of a resolution scheduling a time and place for a hearing on the ordinance. This ordinance comes before council because the applicant has asked for a zoning change to allow a townhouse development along Norristown Road, Maple Glen. The project will include improvements to the intersections of Welsh and Norristown Roads. Council has listened to presentations and public comments on this project at two previous meetings. The matter is on the agenda only for the purpose of introducing an ordinance and scheduling this hearing. At the actual hearing, you will have an opportunity to ask questions and present public comment on the ordinance. The project and the traffic improvements. We ask you to hold your comments on the substance of the ordinance until the hearing takes place. We expect that the applicant will have its development team present at the hearing to answer all your questions. So with that explanation, do we have a motion to introduce the ordinance and set up a time and place for it?
I move to introduce the ordinance as proposed, amending the zoning ordinance, Chapter 230, to amend Article 2, definitions, and Article 9, R-3, residential district to provide a commercial transition community.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, so roll call vote. Bill?
Mr. Chaudry, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Harmon, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Wade, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Whiteside, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Mrs. McCouch, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Second motion?
I move to adopt, wait, where are we? I'm sorry. I move to adopt the resolution as proposed, establishing a time and place for public hearing on the ordinance amending the zoning ordinance, Chapter 230, to amend Article 2, definitions, and Article 9, R3, residential district to provide a commercial transition community, Monday, May 22nd, 2022,
23.
23 at 7 p.m. in the Horsham Township building.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. This is a roll call vote.
Chaudry, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Harmon, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Wade, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Whiteside, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
And Mr. McCouch, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right, next, what do we have next? We're going to table the next one, I think, Mary?
Yes, I do not have copies of the signed agreements to accept conditions.
I move to table the Horsham Road Land Development Plan.
Second.
Moved and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Next is reviewing subdivision and land development for 853 West County Line Road.
Council has given this preliminary approval. The Town Planning Commission looked at it earlier in the month for final review. The Township Planning Commission did give its recommended final approval for the plan, and they are back in front of you this evening for their final review.
As Bill said, we were here March 9th, and we did talk about your willingness to grant preliminary land development approval. We reviewed all the waivers at that time, but because the Planning Commission meeting right before did not recommend final, we elected to defer doing anything until after the Planning Commission met. We met last week with your Planning Commission, fully supported the final plan recommendation, so we're here tonight to seek, as Bill said, the final plan support. And as we've already gone through all the waivers with you last time, unless Mary or Eric thinks differently, I don't think we need to go through all the waivers again. But,
I have direction from you to handle the waivers.
so that's it.
Okay, Mayor, where do you want to start?
I think Mr. Murphy is saying that everything in the letters is will comply. You've already addressed the waiver request, so it's a matter of directing me to prepare a resolution and an agreement to accept conditions so it can be considered at your meeting on May 10th.
Right.
Our thing is we'll comply at this point.
Yep.
Okay. Will you have anything further? Eric? Mary, you have your direction.
Thank you very much.
Good. Thanks.
Thank you. Next, we have 3 zoning hearing board applications for May.
Yeah, you have 2, 1 commercial and 2 residential. Your first one is 914 Limeco Pike. It's the Golden Great Wall Restaurant, right next to, a restaurant in the small strip center next to the CVS on Limekill Pike. I don't think they're here this evening. I do not see anyone here for them. But the issue is, if you look in the rear of the building, they put sheds up. Sheds, if my pointer works, there we go. So you can see a little blue diagram. If you go to CVS and you pull in the CVS driveway, you can see the two sheds behind the shopping center for the restaurant. They need variance relief to put them in there. The owners did not know at the time. Thus, they met with code enforcement and they submitted their zoning hearing board application to get the required variances they need to keep the sheds behind the restaurant. The staff recommendation, we had a couple issues out here, and unfortunately, the tornado that we talked about earlier took down woods that have been established for 30 to 70 years between the homeowners on Misty Hollow and the shopping center. So the entire woods got taken out by the tornado. So the residents that live contiguously to the shopping center are now affected by a lot of lights and foot candles and glare. And one issue that there is these windows, these two windows facing the parking lot and these four windows facing Limekill Pike have legal non-conforming perimeter lights. Many of us that have lived in town a long time know they're white lights and they're very bright. And what's happening now is the residents, the homeowners, are being affected by these lights. So the staff recommendation to their shed request to keep the sheds is neutral with the condition that these two windows, these sets of windows that face the parking lot and face the residential homeowners, those lights are done away with. They're turned off permanently, taken down. They can keep the four windows along Limekill Pike that are not affecting the homeowners, and really that's they're trying to draw attention to their restaurant and market themselves, and that's what really Limekill Pike is all about, and the traffic going up and down Limekill Pike, and they look over at the lights and then they can see their name. As their name isn't all fixed from the tornado, some of the letters are still out. But that's the staff recommendation that will be neutral to the sheds in the rear and these lights on these two windows here facing the parking lot get removed.
Anyone had that conversation with them yet?
Yeah, we've been meeting with them, so yes, the conversation's been had.
Everybody okay with that? Okay, Mary, you got that?
Yes, that the lights on the windows facing the residential houses be removed
Permanently.
permanently.
They can be put back in 50 years when the new trees get planted.
Next is 440 Cloverly Lane.
440 Cloverly Lane, they want to do a new extended, and I don't think they're here this evening either. So they would like to, let me pull it up here. They have a front porch now in front of the house, and they are located in our R3 zoning district. So currently, our R3 zoning permits 20% impervious coverage. They are currently already at 26.9%. And if they get the porch expanded, they have an existing porch. If they expand the porch area, they go to 27.8%. So they're in a neighborhood that was built in the 60s, and it does not have any stormwater control, such as detention basins. So this is the front porch now that exists. What they want to do is add on from where the red pointer is now down to the edge of the house, beyond the house, and then wrap around the side of the house. So that piece there will take them to 27.8%, where 20% is allowed. And they currently have 26.9%. So that's the variance that they need, is for impervious coverage.
Talk to them about reducing their impervious coverage elsewhere.
We did. They would like to keep everything.
No, I don't think that's a lot to ask.
It is. We historically,
Maybe 3% normally, which would give them what?
23%.
23%, right? Yeah. And
But
now
I think-
they're almost 5% over that.
Yeah. Yes.
And they're not willing to do anything to try to reduce it or do something somewhere else to reduce the coverage. They just want to keep adding on.
Yes.
I think that's a little too much, and I would be opposed.
And I think what you might be able to consider is neutral, with the condition that they continue discussions with our code enforcement staff and see if some solution could be made. But the condition would be that they're neutraled out. Like, they're at 26.9, so either they make something happen, like, and stay at 26.9%, or 27.0, it's 0.1, but stay in that, so everything's neutral. One thing, I don't have the math on me, but, if they just took the porch down to the edge of the house and just did this area and not wrap it around the house on here, and maybe did some type of stormwater control, that might sort of keep them neutral, keep them, neutral around that 26.9, 27.0%.
So, well, yeah, but if.
Don't go any higher than they are now.
Right, but they don't seem willing to do anything. So I think we need to draw the line in the sand somewhere.
I think maybe, but maybe instead of saying neutral with that condition, maybe you say you're going to oppose it unless they work with the township before they go to the zoning hearing board and amend the application to show the 26.9%.
I think that's a better way to word it.
But you had mentioned something about putting a stormwater management facility in on that. How would that work?
The ordinance wouldn't, it's only 200 square feet, so the ordinance wouldn't require something. We could come up with a requirement of something that they'd have to do. If it doesn't infiltrate, it'd be tough to have them do something now if there's no storm sewer in the area.
No, there's stormwater piping.
Yeah.
No basin or anything.
Is there piping along the frontage of their property? I'm seeing this for the first time, so I don't have the answers here tonight, but we could certainly come up with something that would make this neutral, whether they wrap around the porch or don't, right? It's just how big that thing would become. I know we always talk about the percentages. I think, just keep in mind, it's just 200 square feet, which from a percentage-wise sounds like a lot, but it's only 200 square feet, so from our stormwater ordinance perspective, it's minimal. Have these other improvements been in for a long time, or have these people like slowly added on stuff doing it?
All the improvements have been in there a long time.
So we could certainly come up with something, whether it's 200 square feet or 100 square feet, whether you wrap it or don't, that will make this neutral and the neighborhood won't feel any ill effects of 200 square feet of impervious.
I think
If
it's
from a
better-
strictly engineering
Right.
perspective.
So I like your idea of, I don't like the idea of neutral and work with this. I like the idea of opposed unless you work with this. Kind of sets it, the tone, like, you don't want to work with this now, but now you're going to have to, otherwise you're not going to get it.
And certainly removing some impervious, it would be cheaper for them than installing some kind of stormwater basin that we could come up with. So it's like, maybe it's an either or, either they remove the impervious or they got to come up with something to get our approval before you.
Go to the zoning hearing board, yeah. Everybody okay with that? Got that, Mayor? Well, you should,
No.
you're the one that suggested it.
Got it?
Okay. All right, next is 310 Willowbrook.
This is a swimming pool at 310 Willowbrook. It's an impervious coverage issue again, and they did adjust themselves to bring the impervious coverage down. So they're allowed 20%. The property's currently at 21.9%, and if they get the variance that they need for their new pool, they'd be at 23%.
All within our 3%.
And staff would be, recommendation would be neutral.
Are you okay with that? Okay. All right, that concludes the zoning hearing board applications. So next is a request for waiver of land development from Eurofins.
You saw 795 Horsham Road, the Eurofins. This is the property at Horsham Road and Privet Road. And they were in front of you and for a review of a zoning hearing board application, and they got the variances that they need to proceed forward. They're in front of you tonight to I guess, improve a loading dock on the side of their building, and are requesting a waiver of land development for that.
Yes. You're up.
Sorry. Hi, Kristen Pianzio from Hamburg, Rubin, Mullen, Maxwell, and Lupin. Yes, so what we want to do is add, this is the Next Gen building. It's about 110,000 square feet. It occupied Next Gen for a long time with 600 employees. Eurofins is a Horsham native that wants to relocate and expand its business. They do clinical studies, pharmaceuticals, and things like that. In order to modernize this very old building, there's no loading dock here in the back. And if you remember, that was the substance of our application. The variance was for this setback here. The loading dock that we're proposing is parallel to the building so that the trucks can come in along the side. And then all the loading and unloading happens via a lift inside that loading dock, which is the bump out. So there is another page. The reason why we're here for a land development waiver is we're doing very little on the property. That bump out is about 430 square feet. And so with changing some circulation around the building, so this is the landscape plan. So this is the area of disturbance here along the back. We're relocating the trash dumpster to the back here, and then redoing, we're adding an island here for a turning radius, and there's a little concrete work being done here. There are plantings that we're willing to add to the property to help fill in along the side here. We're planting 5 red maples and 36 evergreens in total, and that fills in the gaps along our side property line, adding a couple here and along the entrances. And then we're trimming back a tree here. So it's a very minor modification to the site, allows us to revitalize this building with a new occupant, multi-million-dollar investment into the building. So we've seen the review letters. There's not an issue with anything in any of the comments from your civil engineer or your landscape architect. We can work with them through any subdivision and land development ordinance requirement to the township engineer's satisfaction.
Who's the neighbor on the other side?
Who's the neighbor? This is Eric Britz from Bowler, if I didn't say.
On the back, Tiva Pharmaceuticals.
It's 425 Privet Road. It was former Teva. They've left. They were a tenant. So there's a new owner that's there's no one there yet. They're trying to attract new tenants.
Bill, your recommendation on this?
Well, we're good with it, but I would like to bring up, all this technology. So this is Horsham Road. Along their frontage on Horsham Road, there's a sidewalk. And their property owner, 425 Privet Road, next to them has sidewalk along Privet Road. But there is no sidewalk along their frontage on Privet Road. I would like to suggest and recommend as part of the condition to their waiver of land development that they add and put in the missing link, this sidewalk along Privet Road, to add that walkability for the community, their employees, and the neighborhood.
And the answer is yes.
So, yeah, we were able to contact the client who's willing to put the sidewalk in. What Eric is whispering to me and showing me on his phone is that there is a second phase that we would be back in front of you with for any expansion of this building. The sidewalk addition adds impervious coverage, so we'd like to do some stormwater management at that time as opposed to with this application. I'm sure we'll work it out with Eric. I think it's engineer speak that we can figure it out and get that sidewalk in for you without having to redesign the stormwater basin that's adjacent to it. Well,
I'm sure we'll figure it out.
we all stare at Eric.
So the approval resolution for the waiver of land development, we would be conditioned on the review letters from Gilmore for both the engineering and the landscaping stuff, as well as the installation of sidewalks.
And working with the stormwater issue.
Well, I'm just going to at least stay silent on that because there is a number of comments in their recommendations now with regard to stormwater, and I think he'll find a way to just wrap it into that without necessarily specifying that they have to address the stormwater for the impervious for the sidewalks.
You good with that?
Yeah.
Yep, we're good.
All right, so you got it all worked out? Everybody good?
Okay.
Okay.
See you next meeting. Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good night. Finally, we have the bid for plantings on the Whitmer Road Basin retrofit project.
As you're aware, you recently awarded the bid to retrofit the Whitmer Road Basin, which is one of our largest basins. It's in the Pennypack Creek headwaters, and it's an old basin that was put in the 1980s, which is just cut the grass. So the project is to retrofit the basin to make it a biodetention basin, which would help water quality as well as stormwater control. So we left out the plantings when you awarded the bid for the main project. So what you're doing tonight is awarding putting out to bid is the plantings for the project. So we're doing them separately. So that's what you're doing tonight, is authorizing that bid to go out.
Motion?
I move to authorize the solicitation of bids for the planning for the Whitmer Road Basin retrofit project and further authorize advertisement of the same.
Second.
Moved in second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Nothing else on the agenda this evening. I'll adjourn this meeting. Have a good night, everyone.